Welcome to episode 121 of the Whatnauts review show, where every week we pick a story and we talk about it. This could be a movie, TV series, anime, manga, comic book, audio drama, all kinds of entertainment. We watch it, read it, listen to it, and then we come back here and we talk about it. My name is Melissa Wilkinson, and I am joined, as always, by Kyle Springer.
Hello. How is it going?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing all right. I was extra groggy this morning when I woke up.
Ooh.
It was one of those days where my eyes were like caked shut with all of the sleepy stuff, and I'm just like, I don't want to. So, but I am alive and well, and I have made it here.
Oh, that's good, because I can't, you don't have a webcam that I can see right now. So as far as I know, you could be a skeleton or ghost. Mm-hmm. So thank you for confirming to me you are alive.
Yes. Not a part of the living dead or the undead or stuff like that.
You don't have like one eyeball hanging out of its socket.
Yeah, no. Fortunately, all my eyeballs are intact.
Nice.
Camera update though. I should in the next couple weeks be ordering my new camera here. I think like early September is when I want to try and put that out. Which I think this goes up on like September 1st or 2nd or something like that. September 2nd. So hopefully around the time you guys are listening to this live, I will have ordered my camera. I don't know if it'll be ready by next weekend, but we shall see. We shall see.
Cool. Well, I got a new haircut yesterday for the first time since January.
Nice. It's looking good.
Thank you.
I can see you, but you can't see me.
Right.
But they can see both of us on the stream. So.
Yeah. Hair is refreshing. I feel like a new lady. I'm ready to take on the world and talk about 90s sitcoms.
Hell yeah. Let's do it. So this week, I guess we're doing kind of a special episode for the past, I guess, almost year now. Like 8 months ago or so.
We started the beginning of the year.
Yeah. We've been doing these once a month special episodes where we have been covering some kind of TV show or something that we cannot finish in 1 week. So we've been following it from month to month, and it's been working out fantastically. We finished up Mr. Robot last month, and we were about to start a comic. Which we will tell you guys more about at the end of this one. But Melissa, you came up with the idea of just like, you know what? Let's take a break. let's have some fun. We've watched some dramas. Let's just go into 90s sitcoms and have some fun.
Right.
So
this is a special episode I've been wanting to do for a while, because talking about like the shows we watched growing up, we realized we both have a blind spot where you grew up on the Seinfeld, Mr. The Seinfeld. You grew up on that show, and you really didn't know The Simpsons. And I grew up on The Simpsons,
not at all.
and I barely know anything about Seinfeld. So I thought, as kind of a buffer, as kind of a fun month between us doing these two drama series, let's spend an episode where we do a sitcom trade and make each other watch 3 episodes of our show.
Yes, and I think this is going to be a lot of fun. So, just real quick, Seinfeld for me was something that like was always on in my household. It was on, like the reruns were on like right when my dad got home, so we knew like, Dad likes Seinfeld and stuff like that. So let's just put that on. We can watch that while we eat. Simpsons.
Yeah,
I never really watched. I caught a couple episodes. I know the whole like Yvonne Etniage thing. That's about it though.
Yeah.
Like I know some of the more like pop culture references around it, but specifics I don't know. It was always kind of like my friend's older brother's show. That was kind of it. And then yeah, by time I got old enough to really feel like I could watch it and understand it and like it, I was just like, well, I feel like I missed it all. But it turns out there's like almost 700 something episodes. So
yeah,
if
it
I
has
had
been
started
running.
watching then I probably would have seen most of it. But
yeah, The Simpsons is older than we are.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I grew up with. We watched a lot of TV in my house growing up. We were a very TV centric family. And we always went through like sitcoms that would be rerunning during our dinner hour. And it was a lot of Simpsons, a lot of Friends. My dad liked Frasier, MASH.
Okay.
I know more about MASH than the average person my age. And we saw a little bit of Seinfeld, but I think it was never one that my dad took to. And maybe because of that, it was never one that I took to. It's like I was familiar with the characters, the basic concept and tone of the show, but I couldn't name you outside of the big episodes everybody knows and the big moments like the puffy shirt and the Junior Mint. Yeah. I couldn't name any actual episodes from my own memory and not from cultural osmosis memory.
Yeah. Well, give me. I mean, do we want to do synopses of the show? Because I don't feel like we really need to with this one.
No.
For those
do you
of you who've never
the...
heard of The Simpsons, like
I don't understand. I don't know why this family is yellow and why that woman's hair is so tall. Why is her hair tall? Is that like the big mystery of the show? 30 seasons to find out why her hair is tall. Do you want to list the episodes that we covered?
Yes. Yeah, I have those written down here. Let me pull them up. Got my notes here.
Well, let's...
So, from The Simpsons, Melissa, you had me watch Marge versus the Monorail, which is season 4, episode 12. Then you had me watch Bart Sells His Soul, which is season 7, episode 4. And then last but not least, you had me watch The Mysterious Voyage of Homer, which was season 8, episode 9. And then I had you watch the Chinese Restaurant from Seinfeld, which was season 2, episode 11. Then The Contest, which was season 4, episode 10. And last but not least, The Rye, which is season 7, episode 11. 7-11. There you go.
How long did Seinfeld run?
How many seasons were there? 9 seasons with 180 episodes, it looks like. So.
That is less than a third of what The Simpsons has done. And this isn't a contest. You know, we didn't come here trying to prove which show is better. This is just a cultural trade.
Yeah.
We're sending an exchange student to each other's countries.
Yeah, so if you guys want to follow along, you might want to pause this and then go check those out. I know The Simpsons is available on Disney Plus. You guys can go watch all that stuff there. Seinfeld is on Hulu. You guys can watch it there. Yeah. But I mean, do you? I mean, yeah. This is a weird one. We've not really done something like this. Do you want to give general thoughts of what you thought of them, or do we want to just do housekeeping now and then dive?
Let's do it.
Right in.
Yeah, let's do housekeeping, and then I was thinking we'd cover Seinfeld first, and then The Simpsons. Like the Simpsons episodes I gave you are a little bit more fantastical, and it seems odd to do those and then go back down to we're waiting on a dinner reservation.
Okay. Well, let's do housekeeping then. Ladies and gentlemen, if you did not know, we have multiple podcasts here at The Whatnauts. You guys can find out more information on our website, thewhatnauts.com. or your favorite podcasting platform of choice. Just type in the Whatnauts and all of our shows will pop up right there. If you guys like what we do, patreon.com/the Whatnauts is where you can support us for as little as $1 a month. We do have all kinds of exclusive content at our $3 tier. That would be from all of our shows. We recently did a series of stuff for the Reactor Core, in which we reacted to movie trailers from different decades. And I think in the next month or so here, we have to get back to doing our Jackbox Party Pack game night that we tried to do a long time ago. It didn't work, but now that I have a new PC, it should work fine. So we'll figure that stuff out. That stuff will be at the $3 tier on Patreon. And last but not least, a big shout out to our Patreon supporters at the $5 tier. So thank you, Sam, for supporting us and helping us out. We appreciate it a lot. Thank you. Indeed.
Thank you.
And Jack is in the chat right now.
Hey.
Hello, Jack. How are you? I think we're just about to get started talking about our sitcoms and stuff here. So Seinfeld first is what you had said. So
yes.
You know what? Let me put up. Why not? I'll do the spoiler graphic, even though I don't feel like we need it because it's just 3 random episodes of Seinfeld and The Simpsons.
Spoiler. They don't find out what the deal is.
Yeah, but like just in case, you know.
All right. Yeah, for tradition's sake.
Okay, we are officially in spoiler territory, so if you don't want to know how Marge Simpson's hair got so tall, stop watching. Seinfeld, though. So, Melissa,
yes.
I had you watch these 3 episodes of Seinfeld. What did you think? What are your thoughts?
I really enjoyed these. The first 2 were episodes I had heard of. I think the contest and being master of your domain has worked its way into the public lexicon. I'd heard of the Chinese restaurant just as a prime example of a bottle episode in television. I'd never heard of the rye, so that was a really fun surprise there at the end.
Yeah, good. Yeah, it was interesting because we finished watching Mr. Robot last month, and there's a character in there who's all about sitcoms and stuff. And when we first meet him, he's going on this monologue about Seinfeld. And he's like, and there's this one where they're waiting for their food, and they don't even get to eat. Like in my mind, I'm like, it's Seinfeld. He's talking about Seinfeld. I know this. Like Santa, I know him. But yeah, so that I think all 3 of these are classic Seinfeld episodes, and stuff like that. Do you have one in particular that you want to start with? Just go down the list.
I want to say that I like that you gave me episodes from across a big span of the series. We went from season 2 to 4 to 7, so I could really see the show growing. And when I watched the Chinese restaurant, I thought, this is funny, but the pacing of this seems off. It feels like when you open a bag of chips and you're like, oh, these chips are great, but there's a lot of air in here. Like there were fewer things in the episode, not just because it's a bottle episode, but like the pauses between lines seemed longer.
It's a bit of an anomaly.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I didn't know if that was just the style of doing a sitcom at that time where they were, I don't know. Like the timing felt off to me. I think because I'm used to modern sitcoms, which also many have dropped the laugh track. You have to wait for laugh track breaks in this episode. And there are always like couple bits of silence, the little bit of silence before and after a laugh track. It felt like I really enjoyed that, but I feel like that was 70% jokes and 30% air. But then you get to the rye, which feels much tighter. Like it's got so many different plot ingredients and you're watching them get set up and you don't know what they mean yet. Like, okay, Kramer went to a Costco and bought way too many things. That's fun. But then you don't see how that's going to impact the other characters' storylines by the end of the episode. And then they do like tie everything together in this big absurd bow of trying to hook a loaf of rye bread onto a fishing line and pull it up to a third story window.
Yeah, it's like the Ocean's 11 of Seinfeld episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Chinese restaurant is an interesting one because you're never at the apartment, right? Like it's completely in this Chinese restaurant, which is why I said it's kind of an anomaly. Like you don't really get the same formula that most of the show takes on, which is
Kramer's also not in it.
Yeah, it's just Seinfeld and George and Elaine, and that's it.
Yeah, and I didn't know that was something the show did, if they would commonly have an episode that didn't have all four of them. And there are only four main characters. It would seem easy enough to put all four in every episode. Like, it makes sense. Oh, I was just surprised. I didn't know if this was part of, like, if this show was from some sort of old tradition where it's like everybody is in every episode. We're going to be very formulaic and not startle the viewing masses.
Supposedly, well, so they did that every so often, where like maybe Kramer wasn't in there, or maybe Elaine wasn't in that one. They did one where George was not in there, and supposedly he got pissed. Like he was really upset and was like, "Don't you dare write a script without me in it." So he's in basically all of them except like one, I think. I did not double check on that, but that is what I saw. But yeah. So it's most of them, and like those are the four kind of main characters, but they're still like in those three that I showed you. Like there wasn't any Newman. Because he's also a major character in there. You didn't get to meet Putty, who is God, what's his name? From Venture.
Is it Patrick Warburton?
Yeah, he's in the show too. Like there are other important characters that end up coming in. But yeah, I think this was just like let's focus on these four here. So.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
We had to spend some time with George's parents. I remember them.
Yeah.
There always have been things about the show that I liked, but it was never enough to pull me towards the show. I think another thing about it is I didn't want to be in Jerry's apartment. Like, it's not very thrilling as a set.
Not really.
Like, I grew up watching Friends. Those are beautiful apartments. Like, Joey and Chandler's apartment, I wouldn't say is architecturally stunning, but it's got, like, weird things in it that I liked. I wanted to be in those sets. I think as a child, I looked at Jerry's apartment, and I'm like, no, there's nothing here for me but the cereal.
Which, if you noticed, he had, like, 7 or 8 boxes of cereal up on that countertop. But yeah, I mean, that is kind of in step with what the show is. It is famously a show about nothing. It's just normal people doing normal things, being complete idiots, right?
Yeah, I do like how pedantic it is.
Yeah. It's kind of a spectacle to see in that sense, because a lot of sitcoms do that thing where they have a beautiful apartment because they have a nice set, right? They want it to be interesting to look at, and here it's just like it's a couch, it's a breakfast bar, there's like a little table, he has a computer in the corner, but that's you know, like that's it. But yeah, then it's also them like going to visit their in-laws and going to the local corner store or the newest Chinese restaurant. They just have to go to. So it's like life for them in the town that they live in, which is kind of nice. Yeah,
and that's something I appreciate now as an adult. Like I've been wanting to go back and watch sitcoms that I didn't necessarily watch when I was a kid, but that existed in a time I never really got to live in. Like, I watched some Frasier as a child because my dad liked it, but I'm a child. What am I going to get out of Frasier on my own?
Yeah.
I didn't start watching the show individually until I was in college. I'm like, oh, this is what was going on the entire time. I get more of this now. This show's amazing.
Yeah.
And I want to watch it to look at a portrait of a professional adult life in the 90s that I didn't get to lead. Like, I want to watch that just to look at it, just to look at their business wear and like their penthouses, just adult problems, just like going to the bank in the 90s, having a beeper and an answering machine. Like, I want to visit this timeline I didn't get to live in at the right time. And that's what I appreciate about Seinfeld now. It is so slice of life. It's like I'm being a tourist in a way, but a tourist for very mundane things.
It's slice of life. It's very mundane, but like you said, it's pedantic. It's very petty at times. Just the stupid stuff that they do. Like you mentioned in Answering Machine, there's an episode where George is like trying to avoid his girlfriend, so he's setting up a new answering machine thing just so he can like field the call and not have to pick up and stuff like that. And it's stupid stuff like that where it's like that doesn't really seem like it would be an interesting episode, but then you get to it and it's like, this is funny. Like he's just being an idiot.
Yeah.
So,
and this show
go ahead.
No, it's more blunt than I think I was expecting. Like, I didn't really know how bawdy a show of this time was, especially like a big primetime network sitcom that aired at like 7 p.m. It was for like the general public. So the fact that it is so, I mean, it's all like metaphor, but they are talking about like lots of sexual acts.
Yep.
There's in the Chinese restaurant episode, George is talking about how he's basically about to have sex with a woman and he has to poop. And he's like, I can't poop in this apartment. The bathroom door's right there. She's going to hear everything. I just have to stand up, buckle my pants, and leave. And I can't explain this to her.
That's the thing. Like, this show has so many like awkward conversations like that where it's like, but yeah, what would you do in that situation? Like,
yeah, like it holds a mirror up to you.
Yeah.
I also
doing it, and then I felt a certain bowel movement about to happen, and I had to be like, you know what? I think it's best that I leave.
Yeah.
And he was like, but that was after you guys did the thing, right? And he was like, no, right before.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like how positively the show talks about sex. Like the contest episode, it's because George's mom caught him masturbating when he thought he was like in their house alone. And his mom was shaming him for it, but he's like, "There's everybody does this.
What are you doing?"
He's like, "There's nothing to be ashamed of here. Everybody does this." And because everybody does this, they're able to turn it into the contest of, well, could we stop if we wanted to? How long could we go without doing this? And then in the Rye, it's not the number. It's like the C plot of this episode is Elaine's new boyfriend won't go down on her.
Yeah.
She has to try and get him to that stage. And I don't remember there being a positive discussion of cunnilingus in a sitcom growing up. I didn't know this was out there. Like, way to go, Seinfeld.
I mean, on one hand, like it's, I guess you could describe it as positive, but it's like, to me, I feel like it's more just neutral. Like it's just happening.
Yeah.
They're obviously friends, so they're talking about it, but they're still kind of skirting around it, like not actually saying what it is, being like, my mother caught me doing you know what.
Yeah.
Right? Like they don't, like they're not as open about it as maybe some people might be, but I feel like it fits with some like most people. I feel like would be awkward talking about that stuff, right? So
yeah, I like that the topics are brought up, but they also don't need to come right out and say them, because they're also like, the writing and the performing is so talented that they're able to communicate a lot with just their faces and their gestures and the tone of their voice, and like the exact point where they like kind of tune out and mutter like the end of a sentence.
yeah, it's good. So let's see, the Chinese restaurant. Yeah, that one is basically all set up for like a single joke, right?
Yeah.
Or it's just one long running joke.
Yes.
We say Cartwright, and no one comes, so we hang up. Who's Cartwright? I'm Cartwright. It's that, and then when they leave, they're like, Seinfeld? Fall?
Yeah.
Great. But yeah, so then the content. So by the way, I did not plan to have all of these have like low tier sexual references in there, but they all kind of did. There was another one I was about to put on my list, or ones that I was kind of looking at to be like, is this a good one or not? There was one where they're visiting some friends like down in the Hamptons at their like beach house or something. And George has a new girlfriend and they haven't had sex yet, and he goes to the store to get some food or something for them, or like some snacks, and while he's gone, his new girlfriend is like, okay, well, I'm gonna go lay out by the pool, and then she kind of walks off set, and then as Elaine and Jerry are talking, they notice that she's laying out topless, and they're just like, oh my god, is she topless? And then they're all just like whoa, like what in the world? And then she just like walks up and is like, so guy, like, you guys want, it's a beautiful day out, and they're just like, it sure is. and then like they're like, okay, we cannot tell George whatever we do, because he hasn't done anything with her. So we've seen her naked, but he hasn't. So like we can't ruin that for him. And then of course Kramer, it like is not there when they make the pact, and so he's just like, yeah, and we saw her topless, and he's just like, what? How what do you mean? So it's the dumb stuff like that.
Yeah. Man, there's nobody who's more fun to watch get indignant and start yelling than Jason Alexander.
Yeah. He's so great. Yeah, I like it's I think another really good joke they did in the contest is how when they make the contest, they each kind of go their own separate ways.
Yeah.
And you see each of them in their own scenario, and at the end of each night you see them sleeping and trying to sleep, and Kramer, who lost the contest immediately, is sleeping soundly, and everyone else is just like, they can't sleep, they can't get comfortable, and it's just like, oh, it's because they haven't masturbated yet.
Yes, I loved that visual language. If they check in every night, and they don't need to tell you exactly. The show is about such adult things and such things that may not really be discussed openly on TV, and it's putting it right out there in these non-verbal ways. Like, you just see who's asleep and who isn't.
Yeah, good. And then the rye, is much more like the normal thing that you would see. Well, like if the Chinese restaurant is something you wouldn't normally see in that show, the contest is maybe more on the regular side of things, whereas the rye kind of takes that one step further and amplifies things up to 11, right? Where there are these multiple plots that kind of coalesce into this just ridiculousness of, Kramer has all this extra like giant size stuff from Costco. He has like 50 giant cans of beefarino.
Yeah.
And then he happens to buy a horse and carriage.
No, it's like his neighbor, and he's like taking care of the horse and carriage for his neighbor while his neighbor's on vacation.
Yeah. And so he's feeding this horse this beefarino, which is like this beef ravioli type of thing. And he's supposed to take take George's in-laws on a like romantic anniversary tour of New York and stuff like that, and the horse just has this bad gas from all the beefarino. It's the dumbest thing ever.
Yes.
It would only happen on Seinfeld.
Right, and you have no idea that's where the story is going to go when Kramer went to Costco is introduced at the beginning of the episode as a plot point.
Right. But then you have the whole thing with George and this whole idea of like, okay, his parents bought this loaf of bread kind of as a gift because they're meeting the soon-to-be in-laws. And it's their first time, and you bring like a bottle of wine or something, something else, and they brought this loaf of rye bread from this bakery that the town is crazy about, and then they don't use the bread in their meal, so George's parents are kind of upset and they take it back without them noticing. Which is like, that's another one of those situations of just like, well, what do you do in that situation? Right. Like, what is the social etiquette here? Which is it I think it also exemplifies George's relationships with his parents too, where he's just completely embarrassed by them all the time, and just like, Mom, don't, they can hear you, like, don't.
I like, good. There's this continuing theme of you can never just tell anybody what's going on. There's never a, what I meant to say was this, or whoops, I made a mistake, or I was embarrassed at the time, but I want to actually communicate this clearly to you now. No, you don't, you tell this to your friends later. You never explain yourself in any situation. You just connive around it.
Yeah. Was there anything else that stood out to you about these ones? Things,
I don't know.
Things you liked, things you didn't like.
Oh, I liked Elaine's hair.
Yeah.
I've always liked Elaine. For as little of the show that I watched as a child, Julia Louis-Dreyfus lodged in my head as an incredibly comforting, trustworthy figure.
Yeah, she's like the coolest one of the bunch, but at the same time, she's also not. Like, she's just as much of a dork as the rest of them.
Yeah.
Like, she has this ongoing running joke about how she's in love with, God, what was the guy that was in her...
John F. Kennedy Jr.?
Yeah, she's in love with him, like that... comes up in multiple episodes where she's just completely starstruck by him. John, he was in my class. Yeah, she's a dork too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this show is about them just kind of getting into all of that trouble, getting into all of those awkward situations. Doing things that maybe they don't see as bad at the time, but then it ends up kind of coming back to haunt them or stuff like that. Like, I don't know how much you know about the ending of the show.
Don't they go to jail?
They go to jail. Yeah. They take a trip, I think, to like Boston or something, and they see this guy being picked on. He's this bigger, fatter guy being picked on, and they're filming it, and they're just kind of sitting there commenting, and apparently they have like a Good Samaritan law in Boston, where if you see something like that, you like, by the law you have to like go help and say something, and they didn't, so they go to jail, and they end up having a trial to be like, yeah, like we kind of want to appeal that, like we're not from around here, like we didn't know all of that stuff. And then all of the characters from the past come back and be like, you guys are terrible people. Remember that one time when you guys did this? And the old woman that Jerry stole the rye from and mugged came back, and she testified. If you've heard of the soup Nazi, he comes back. Yeah, they all come back, and they're like, "You ruined my life. You guys are terrible people." It's not a great ending, but at the same time, it's just like, yeah, like this is like, when you look back, there's some terrible people.
And they're not, in these 3 episodes you gave me, they're not trying to do anything beyond their means. It's not like they have a scheme, a self-interested scheme to begin with. The first episode, they just want to put themselves on the list to get a table at a Chinese restaurant. The second episode, they just have this silly contest going with each other, and they just want to go on dates with people, go on successful dates with people. The third episode, George just wants to have like a nice meeting of the in-laws, and Elaine wants to go further with her new boyfriend. Like, they're very simple, attainable goals, and it's everything going wrong in pursuit of those goals. It's not like there's some, and I'm sure there is an episode where they have like something more self-interested, like a get-rich-quick scheme, and that fails on them, which makes more sense. But this is like, no, even a basic human wants that you should go after. Nah, that's also not turning out well for you.
Yeah. They have stuff where there's an episode about them parking in a handicap spot. It's like Jerry, they want you to park there. That's why it's always open. They have stuff like that. They have stuff where Kramer convinces Jerry to get illegal cable. They're stealing cable. There's all sorts of stuff like that. It's kind of ridiculous, but it's good. It's fun.
There's an episode of The Simpsons that I watched and considered giving to you, but I didn't think it was the best. If I'm giving you 3 seminal episodes of the show, I didn't think this should be in the top 3. If I was giving you like 10 episodes, maybe I'd give you this one.
Gotcha.
But there's one called Homer's Enemy, where there's a new employee at the nuclear power plant where he works. And this guy actually is like a master's degree in nuclear engineering. He works very hard. He's had this difficult life, and he's like, oh, I finally landed my dream job. And he looks at Homer, who's an absolute buffoon and never has any consequences to his actions. And you just watch this man tear into Homer. Like, you don't deserve any of this. Like, Homer tries to make amends, and he's like, come over to my house for dinner. And he's like, you own a house this big? Your wife and daughter are wearing pearl necklaces? You have lobsters for dinner? I live in an apartment above a bowling alley and below another bowling alley.
That's funny. That's good.
The episode ends with him trying to imitate Homer, like, oh, I'm Homer Simpson. I can do whatever I want. Let me just reach out and touch the nuclear reactor. And then he dies. So, like, real world consequences have come for that man, and they never come for Homer.
Yeah.
It's kind of an odd episode. It slightly breaks the mold, but it's in an interesting meta way. It's very entertaining.
Yeah. The only time, so the last thing that I will say about Seinfeld, before we move on to The Simpsons here, there's, like you said, the ones that you are about to show me from The Simpsons are a little more fantastical. than what we saw here for the Seinfeld stuff. The only couple times that I think are arguable that that Seinfeld got into the more fantastical stuff. There's one where, so the fiance that George has, I believe it's her.
Is this the woman who dies from licking a poison? And like she's sealing the envelopes for their wedding invitations, and she dies from some sort of a toxin in the envelope glue.
Yeah.
Yes, that I knew. I know if it was this lady. Yeah. Okay. Wow.
When I think it's like when they're first starting to date or something, he goes to her house and she has this giant doll collection of just these like porcelain dolls and stuff like that. And there's one that looks exactly like George's mom, and it haunts him. They're like on the couch making out, and he looks up and he sees this thing and this doll just looking down at him, at his disapproving mom, just like looking down at him, being like, "Oh, George, why?" And then there was the other one is kind of known as the Bizarro episode. So you and I read All-Star Superman on an older episode of this podcast, in which we meet Bizarro, who is this like opposite day version of Superman, where he like his sentence structure is all backwards. When he says he's happy, he means he's sad. All of that stuff. And Elaine, in one of these episodes, kind of gets fed up with the gang and goes her separate ways, and is like, I need new friends. And she ends up meeting these other three people who are like the Bizarro versions of George and Jerry and Kramer, to the extent that his apartment is just the mirror image of his. It's the exact opposite. It's so funny. But yeah, that is like the most kind of fantastical it gets, that like somewhere out there is like reverse Jerry.
I like that.
Yeah. So and then there are a couple more fantastical scenes that end up like becoming nightmares and stuff like that. Like the one that I mentioned where they're getting illegal cable. There's a like Jerry is kind of worried because it's Kramer who's the one convincing him, and he's like, I don't know, man, like this seems kind of shady. What if someone finds out and like the cops come and stuff like that? And then he finally caves and he gets the illegal cable, and then it changes scenes, and it's like that next day, and they're starting to watch the game, and the like FBI comes in. and they're like, we know what you've done, and he's like, no, I didn't do it. It was my other friend. He was the one that convinced me. I didn't know about any of this. Like all of like I can let you guys know who installed it because it's not me. I'm just a customer. And then that guy walks in, the guy who installed it, and he's like, I was undercover the whole time. and then they shoot Jerry. They shoot him and kill him. And right, and then it like the scene ends, and he wakes up and he's on the airplane and he's dreaming, and he's just so worried that he's gonna get caught for this illegal cable. Good stuff. Seinfeld is a classic.
Yeah, I enjoyed my time with it. I would like to watch more of it on my own now. At least see these episodes I have heard of, like the puffy shirt one, or George's fiance dies an envelope death.
Yeah. Indeed. Good
All
stuff.
right.
Let's move over to The Simpsons.
Yeah, let's go to Springfield.
Simpsons.
So I gave you, I knew I wanted to give you Marge versus the Monorail because it's tricky. There's so much of The Simpsons, and there was a run of years where it was really hitting it out of the park, and it's difficult to narrow down a best episode. But Marge versus the Monorail is frequently up there. Bart Sells His Soul was one I remembered as a kid, and I went back and watched it. And I'm like, this is fantastic. Like, this is a really solid mix of a lot of the different things the show does well. And then The Mysterious Voyage of Homer is another personal favorite of mine, just for how weird it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of the most Grant Morrison of them.
It is,
which is really funny because in Animal Man, there is a scene where he like gets high and goes out in the middle of the desert and meets Wile E. Coyote and stuff like that, and he just has this giant trip on peyote and stuff like that. And I was like, this reminds me of that. Yeah, these were good. I enjoyed these ones.
Nice.
To me, the theme that I saw in all three of these, I don't know if you did this on purpose, but each one is kind of like a crisis for one of these characters. Like, hey, I thought it would be a good idea to invest back in the city and do this monorail thing. It turned out to be a disaster. What do I do? Right? And then Bart selling his soul is like, I didn't think anything of this. It turned out to be a disaster. What do I do? And then Homer on his voyage is like, I wanted to eat this chili, so I coated my mouth with candle wax so I wouldn't feel it. It turned out to be a disaster. What do I do?
Yes. Yeah, The Simpsons is known for having episodes where there'll be an opening that leads into the major plot of the episode, but then you look back on it and it's like those had nothing to do with each other. Yeah, like they always take this turn. And Marge versus the Monorail's pretty silly. There's not much of a heart to that one.
Monorails, get one now. Every city has them.
It's like there's nothing on earth like a genuine bona fide electrified 6-car monorail. I know every word to that song.
That's great.
Something The Simpsons does incredibly well is blend like real emotion in with this absolute absurd, silly, like joke a minute plot structure. Like it's a very heartfelt, sincere, sometimes kind of existentialist show that can be very warm and very loving among, all the nuclear disasters and bullies and other things that happen in this town.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think my favorite of the bunch was Bart selling his soul. That because I like Bart as a character. I think he's fantastic. But to me, especially those last two, Bart selling his soul and the Voyage of Homer, kind of ended in these heartwarming places, right? Where Bart sells his soul and all these weird things are kind of going on around him, and he's attributing that to having no soul, and he's panicking, right? And he's just like, I didn't believe this was an actual thing. What have I done? And he tries to get his soul back to find out that that Millhouse has sold his soul for some pogs. And
remember Alf? He's back in pog form.
And then he goes on this like wild goose chase to the guy that owns the comic book store and all of that, and at the end he is just defeated, and he's like, God, what do I do? I screwed up bad. And as it turns out, his sister Lisa ended up buying it, and it's like, here you go. It's like, aw. Like at the end of the day, she loves him.
Yeah. It wasn't a specific goal of mine, but I'm glad it did work out where you got an episode about the brother-sister bond and an episode about the husband-wife bond in the family.
Yeah, which is what happens in the Voyage, where the mysterious dog voiced by Johnny Cash.
It's a space coyote.
Yeah, is like, you need to find your true soulmate. And he's just like, well, isn't Marge my soulmate? Like, we're married. And he's sitting there like, all of our stuff is separated. She doesn't like the same things I like. What if she's not my soulmate? Oh, shit. Like, God. And then he's panicking. And then, by the end of it, he's just like, yeah, she likes me despite that. Like, despite not liking the same things, despite me being a complete idiot, he still loves me. And it's like, oh, that's good.
Yeah. This show, I think that is its strength. Like, it's so sharply funny and so deeply emotional. And Seinfeld, I'd say, is a lot of nervousness around everyday pedantic social situations. And at least in these couple episodes of The Simpsons, it's more of these like deeper soul fears.
Yeah. Like, I feel like older sitcoms, especially in the like 70s and 80s, often had some kind of message to teach. Some like, well, at the end of the day, the moral of this story is like, don't be a shitty person, right? And then Seinfeld obviously did not watch those ones, and it's like, look, here's a bunch of shitty people. But yeah, I think even something like Seinfeld, I mean, The Simpsons, like, does end up having these kind of morals at the end of the day to show that I think a lot of people were up in arms about when it came out, of like, this show has no morals. Look at him. Bart is a heathen. Like, and at the end of the day, it's like, it's actually kind of nice. Like, they do have some things for you to reflect on. Which is something I don't think Seinfeld really has.
It doesn't seem like it. But then I gave you Marge versus the Monorail, which is just wall to wall silly. This episode was written by Conan O'Brien.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. I did not know that. I did not catch that.
Yeah, he used to work on the show. I think he was part of the general writer's room, and I think he wrote this and a couple other episodes before he, started his own successful late night talk career.
Yeah.
The Monorail episode, it's so silly in all these different little ways, turn after turn. One of my favorite bits is that, so there's this music man type of guy who comes into town and tries to swindle them all into buying a monorail system with all of this money that the town suddenly has. And then they have this big opening ceremony for the monorail, and they wanted to get a celebrity guest, and so Leonard Nimoy is there. And the mayor tells Leonard Nimoy,
"You didn't do anything." Didn't I?
Then he disappears. But the mayor tells Leonard Nimoy, "May the force be with you." And then Leonard Nimoy says, "Do you know who I am?" And the mayor says, "I think I do. Weren't you one of the little rascals?" Which negates the thing that he said before. If you think he's one of the little rascals, why don't you tell him, "May the force be with you"?
Yeah.
And the way the episode ends with all of a sudden this narration from Marge comes out like, "Well, after the debacle with the monorail, I think the city knew better how to deal with its money, except for all these other things we built, like the popsicle stick skyscraper and the 50-foot magnifying glass and the escalator to nowhere."
Oh man, yeah, that one was good. That one was interesting to me because you got to see outside of Springfield. I'm not sure how often the show does that, but the few that I've seen, you do get to see a lot of Springfield. You get to see the school, you get to see the bars, you get to see X, Y, and Z, right? But I'm not familiar with how often it goes outside of that. Of like, here's New York. Here, here's
there is an episode where they go to New York. Yeah, I think
there's that,
at least once a season there's like a vacation episode or an episode where they have to travel for some reason. Yeah, they
Okay.
get outside the city fairly often. But yeah, what did you think about Springfield and its citizens?
Uh, that I think is maybe one of the things that I'm more familiar with the show. Like,
Okay, good.
I know Chief Wiggums. I know the principal. I don't necessarily know them all by name. I don't remember the principal's name.
Skinner.
Skinner.
Skinner!
I know Smithers.
He's my favorite.
Yeah, he's good. Like I know Millhouse. And God, I know him, the kid, the like weird kid, that
Ralph?
has the Ralph. Like I know him. I know the like sisters that have smoked a pack a day.
Oh, yeah, Patty and Selma. We didn't get them in these episodes.
Right? I know them. I know Itchy and Scratchy and Krusty. Like I know some of the characters and just kind of like the general sense of what this show is, and so I'm familiar with that stuff. So I think in that sense it was easy for me to jump into these episodes because I kind of knew what the basics were, right? Like I'm like I don't know if you felt the same way about Seinfeld of like, I feel like I know the basics, so watching these, it all made sense, right?
Yeah, like I know these characters. I knew some of the secondary characters like George's parents. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like I don't know, like are these the same ones you would show to someone who knows nothing about the show?
Maybe I'd show somebody like some earlier episodes that like the first time we see like Burns and Smithers, I don't know if it's necessarily clear to you those are Homer's bosses. I'd probably show like, here's an episode where there's stuff at the power plant, an episode where there's stuff at the school, like more building block things, so you know not just who these people are, but how they all relate to each other.
Yeah. Or I guess what I want to know is, do you feel like these episodes you showed me are like a good representation of the show as a whole? Because I think for me, to just mention real fast with Seinfeld, like I don't feel like Seinfeld necessarily has like those building block episodes. Maybe the pilot. I haven't gone back to watch that one in a long time, so I don't really know how well that one would do. But I feel like the whole idea of the show is there is nothing to get. There's nothing to build upon. Like you can like there are narrative like threads that continue on in the show, but like you can kind of just watch whatever one you want and you'll understand it, and that's really all you need. That is the entire show, right? So.
Yeah. I think the show is similar. Like like if you need, there's so many pieces that go into making The Simpsons what it is. Like to give you an introduction to everybody would be 20 episodes. It's like, okay, this is where we meet Burns. That's where we meet Skinner. That's where we meet Flanders. That's where we meet Nelson.
Yeah.
All these different people. Yeah. You just have to jump in and just figure out who everybody is along the way and learn to live with them.
The Simpsons also famously like animates the intros to each episode completely differently, and I think one of the ones you showed me had one where there was like 50 characters all piled in on them, and if you don't know, it's just like, what in the world, who are all these people? But if you know, it's just like, oh, it's the whole town, the gang's all here, you know.
Right. In the Mysterious Voyage of Homer episode, I think when Homer starts hallucinating due to these Guatemalan insanity peppers, and he like breaks through the fence and he runs away, I think it's like Otto has something to say about it, And I'm like, would you know who Otto is? Is Otto major enough that you recognize that's Otto, or at least that's one of the recurring characters of the show? Or were you just like, that's a guy?
No, from The Simpsons. Oh yeah, I know him. I didn't know that was his name, but I know him. He's the bus driver kind of dude, right? Yeah.
Yes.
He looks like God, what's his name? Howard Stern.
Yeah, he does have that haircut. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, like I'm familiar with a lot of the characters, at least by the way that they look. It's like, oh yeah, that guy, you know? Good old buddy old pal. Hey there, buckaroo. So.
Yeah, I think that's how the show goes. And that's kind of how it goes within the show itself, too. There's a running joke that Mo can never remember Marge's name, even though, you know, he's met her dozens of times.
That's
like,
good.
He keeps calling her Midge.
Hey there, Midge.
Yeah. Or like how Bart, we didn't get any prank calls in this. This is another running bit they did earlier in the show. I don't know how long it lasted, or how often it still happens.
That's
but Bart
one
would
of the
prank
famous
call.
Things that I know.
Right, okay, yeah.
Is Seymour Butts there?
I'm looking for Amanda Hug and Kiss. Never recognizes this kid's voice. Yeah.
It's great.
Or like Burns has to be reminded who Homer is every time he meets him. Like every time Smithers is like, this is a Homer Simpson, sir, Sector 7G. Oh, yes, Simpson.
Good. Yeah, it's interesting because, like I said at the start, Simpsons was always like my friend's older brother's show. It was never on at my household. I think my dad kind of watched it when he was a kid. It's been on that long, or like in college or something, you know?
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
And I guess he just like grew out of it and stopped watching it, and, you know, didn't really keep up with it, and it was just never on at our house. But of the stuff that I did see when I was really young, I often felt like I just didn't understand it. Like I feel like Simpsons often also does, which I don't think we got in the three that we watched here. But I know that Simpsons is also notoriously famous for predicting a lot of things that have come true.
Yeah.
But I'm also sure that they have predicted a lot of stuff that hasn't. But yeah, they do some more political based stuff, some satire with that, or bringing on celebrities and stuff like that. And when I was that young, I just like a lot of that stuff went over my head, and I didn't necessarily understand it or find it funny. So I think that was also part of why it never stuck with me. It's like, I like Bart, but I don't understand the rest of this.
Yeah, it has a bunch of the writers are from Harvard. Like, this show has an extremely highly educated writing staff.
Yeah.
And it has this interesting mix of very highbrow references and like very lowbrow references and jokes.
And slapstick comedy. Yeah. It just makes, because that was the thing of like, too, like the stuff that I knew that was also like not on the more sharply written stuff. I was just like, this is just so nonsensical. It just seems like randomness. And I was just like, I don't I don't understand that either. Like, why is steamed yams supposed to be funny? Like, I don't understand this. But
steamed hams is genius. I almost gave you the steamed hams episode,
which I think you've made me watch that clip before. Someone has. But yeah, like now that I'm older, I can appreciate that more, and I'm like, okay, I see what they're doing, I see what they're going for, I see why this is funny, and it actually does work indeed. So
this is a show with like you said, like a lot of celebrity appearances and pop culture references and whole pop culture pastiche episodes, and they do the Treehouse of Horror every year, which is 3 short, spooky, outside of canon stories, which I adored as a kid. Like, I was a kid who loved spooky stuff, especially like uh whenever anything I recognized went spooky, like I loved the Halloween episodes of anything. And it was the best. I remember being like 7 years old, and like we had this little worksheet that we had to fill out for class, and it was like, describe your favorite night. You know, what's your favorite, what's a time that feels special to you? What's a special occasion for you? Like stuff like that.
The night
and
where
I wrote,
an axe murderer comes.
No.
Yeah,
No.
it's great.
No, it was like I wanted a night where I got to eat my favorite chips. And my mom was home from work, because when I was a kid, like my dad worked days, my mom worked nights, and a scary Simpsons was on. Like I didn't even like figure out, I couldn't tell what they were called. It was like, yeah, the ones where it's scary. I love it. More, please. And I didn't exactly want to give you one of those, but the Mysterious Voyage of Homer almost is kind of Treehouse of Horror-y.
Yeah, it's trippy, that's for sure.
Yeah, but this is a show that's always done, like, you get the baseline of it quick enough that then it becomes this template that you can like wipe clean and paint in a completely different way. Like, we've got all these same characters. Let's reinvent them to tell all these different kinds of stories over and over again. Let's place them directly in another story. Like one of the Treehouse of Horror episodes is just The Shining, but it's The Simpsons are in it.
That's great. Yeah.
And it's just Homer chasing Marge around with an axe.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and the pop culture, like the references of all kinds are there's so many of them, and they're so deep. And this is a show that's amazing at sign gags. Like everything in the frame, like all these props, all these backgrounds are packed with all these jokes, all this wordplay. And it adds to this tremendous rewatch value. You can watch the show over and over again, and like you'll see something you never noticed before, or you'll finally get a reference that you never got last year, because now in the interim year you've heard that song, you've seen that movie, you're like, that's what that line is. I never got that before. This is why I love this growing up. Like, it was a show that I got enough of. I think this is the benefit of its lowbrow, highbrow mixture. Like, a kid can get enough of it, and all of the stuff they don't get, it feels enticing. Like, there were other shows like with Frasier that felt kind of off-putting, but this one was enticing. It's like, okay, if you can put in like a Tom and Jerry joke that I get, maybe I'll eventually get to the point where I can understand, Leonard Nimoy showing up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. It's good. There's just like something else from The Simpsons that always stuck out to me was just how packed they are with stuff and jokes, and like it was just a mile a minute all the time. And I think that's something that is really admirable from the whole series, of just how it's not only done that, but kept that up for almost 700 something episodes.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's wild. So.
Yeah, it's truly a feat unmatched by anything else in humankind.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Do you have a favorite character or something from The Simpsons? Like who? Like, I guess you mentioned Smithers. Is that
I've always loved Burns and Smithers.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. I've got a soft spot for Moe. Moe has always entertained me. I grew up thinking I was a Lisa, because I think we've talked about, like, I was in a gifted program as a kid. I was very smart. But I've realized as I've grown older, like, I don't have that same fire in me that Lisa does. The character I think I really am is Martin Prince, who I don't think you had to see much of in that one.
I don't recognize by name.
He's like he's a smart kid that goes to their school, and he's sort of lighthearted. He kind of prances around.
I've seen him. But
yeah, he's like one of the other kids Bart looks at. Who's like, I'm gonna row in a boat with my soul. He's one of them. Like, he's also very smart, but he's just, but he's a lot weirder and like kind of whimsical, and he doesn't have the same like dedicated, passionate, high stakes about what he's doing that Lisa does. Yeah. Like, I'm a Martin for sure. I don't know who you are. You might be like a Professor Frank.
Professor Frank. Let me look him up. Let's see. Professor Frank. There you go.
I think we all have a little bit of comic book guy in us.
Yeah. Indeed.
I want to talk about
great.
I want to talk about just a couple jokes from these episodes that were outstanding that I wrote down. When Bart has sold his soul and he's realizing this is all catching up to him, and like the universe is kind of turning on him because he's now an aberration. He is a soulless boy. He's riding his bike. He's trying to get to Milhouse to get his soul back because he wrote Bart Simpson's soul on a piece of paper and gave it to Milhouse in exchange for $5. And so he's riding his bike at night trying to get to Milhouse, and a street sweeper comes by and like just rolls completely over his bike. And he's like, oh no, my bike. But then it rolls over and it's like, oh, my bike's still intact. It's just very shiny and clean now. And then he gets on his bike, and the second he gets on it, then it all falls apart. And he turns around, and the guy in the street sweeper van is laughing maniacally. And then he drives down a set of stairs. He drives the truck down a set of stairs leading to a subway, and then you hear an explosion noise.
Yeah.
My favorite
think
joke.
My favorite bit with that is when he's in the Quickie Mart and the door won't open for him. The automatic door won't open.
Which is something that I think the show really reaches like a child's level of thinking. There's a lot of kind of child logic like that, or like things you wonder about, things you're curious about, fears you have. I think Simpsons really reaches down to like these core human concerns, but in a very silly way. A joke that I love from The Mysterious Voyage of Homer, which starts with this chili cook-off contest, and Marge is like, I don't want you going to the chili cook-off contest. You always like hit the beer garden. You never stop drinking. You embarrass me. Don't go this year. But Homer
said
goes.
He wasn't gonna drink. Oh, well, I'm glad he told you that.
Oh, how nice that he said that, and how nice that you believed him.
Yeah.
But he's going around the chili cook-off, and all these characters we know have got like a chili stand, and he goes to Ned Flanders' stand, which is a sign that says Ned's 5-alarm chili. And Homer takes a bite of it, and he's like, 1, 2. Oh, that's only 2.5 tops. He's like, how dare you call this 5-alarm chili? And Ned's like, you're right. I was just trying to be a big man in front of my kids. And then one of his sons reaches out to him and says, Daddy, are you going to jail? And he says, we're going to have to see, son.
We're going to have to see, son. That's good, yeah. Flanders is good.
Yeah, and I wanted to put The Mysterious Voyage of Homer on here because of how incredible the visuals get. Like when he takes these Guatemalan insanity peppers, like the entire visual style of the show changes for a good couple minutes. This isn't like a 30-second gag or something. He goes on this journey for the middle chunk of the episode, and he goes to this kind of mysterious desert world, and like the lines are more angular. There's all of this blocky shading on everything. The color palette is different. I loved whenever this show that I recognized so much like changed its visual language completely. Yeah. And he goes to this beautiful desert world, and like the color palette's different. It's always stuck with me, the visuals of this episode. And this is a show that is so well regarded for its quality of writing, its quality of acting, things like that. I wanted to let the art style of it have its chance to show off.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, like when he first started tripping balls and things started going wonky and stuff, I think that's always a thing in animation that I'm excited to see, of just how are they gonna make this trippy and psychedelic and stuff like that. That's it, because it's like that is a chance for the animators to just go nuts and just do whatever. And and like it was incredible. It was fun to watch all of these people start getting wiggly and their lips are extra long and flapping and all sorts of stuff, and it's just like, whoa, this is wild.
Have you seen? There's a segment in one of the Treehouse of Horror episodes. It's one of the earlier ones. I forget exactly which number it is, but the one with all the 3D animation.
Probably not, because I haven't seen any of the Treehouse of Horror stuff. I'm wondering if maybe I saw like a GIF of it online, but no, I don't think so.
There's an episode, like I said, I don't remember what number Treehouse of Horror this is, but the segment within the episode is called Homer Cubed. And Patty and Selma are coming over to the house, and Homer's like, I don't want to deal with them. What if I just hide? And he goes into the closet, and he pushes so far back in the closet that he goes into this other realm where everything is like 3D animated. And this is like mid-90s kind of reboot looking 3D animation, and he's 3D animated too. Like the cell animated Homer is gone, and he's just wandering around in this void. It's like... Oh, just like a grid floating in space. There's just like polygonal shapes floating around and just like math floating in the air. And he doesn't know where he is, but like the other family back in their regular cell animated home can hear him. And he's trying to like tell them where he is. And he's like, it looks like, has anybody here seen the movie Tron? And everybody's like, no. Yeah. No. Nobody's seen Tron. And eventually they have to like tie a rope to Bart, and then Bart runs back into the closet to try and save him. And then you have 3D animated Bart.
That's funny.
That's one of my favorite things in human art, is that segment of one episode of The Simpsons.
In all of human art.
Yeah, it's Homer cubed.
That's great.
Because it's so eerie feeling, and like back in the house, like it's raining outside the entire time, which sets this, it adds to that mood. It adds this extra level to it that you don't need, but you're so happy it's there. Like it elevates the entire episode just to add that rain effect in the background.
That's good. One of my favorite sitcoms is Community. And I think I might say that that's my favorite one. And they do stuff like that every now and then, where like the Christmas special will be a claymation thing that looks like the old like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer movies and stuff like that. Or they did one that was like all puppets and stuff like that. So it looks like it's part of the Muppets or something. And yeah, like I think when they do stuff like that and they switch up the visual language of the show, it's an interesting experiment because I think it heightens certain things or makes you stop noticing certain things and forces you to like look at other things, or in this weird way also like, hey, you don't know what you got until it's gone too, right? It's like, hey, now that the normal animation isn't there, you might like this new thing for this one interesting bit, but then you get back to the original stuff and you're just like, much better, this is good, right? And then you're like, actually kind of like the original animation, it's better.
And The Simpsons has become a high definition over the years, like much more crisply animated. It's led to like, you've probably seen the GIF of Marge crumping, which is just a beautiful piece of character animation. It's so fluid and smooth.
I don't know
with this high def. Just look up Marge crumping as a GIF or as a short video clip. Marge. It's worth your time. And like they're able to put more detail into like the background signage. But I love the look of these kind of scratchy, blurry, like lo-fi early to mid 90s episodes. There's something about, it's the visual equivalent of like, I guess what people talk about when they like to listen to records and hear like the pop and hiss of the analog media. I want to look at old episodes of The Simpsons where like the colors are off and the lines are too thick.
Yeah, that's funny. Funny, yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I have any more thoughts on the Simpsons stuff that you showed me. I like the kind of personal crises that they all went through. I think it was a good handful of stuff that showed that focused on different aspects of the show, which was nice, or at least like different characters. So.
Good. I'm glad you feel like you got a smorgasbord out of this.
Yeah.
There's one more joke. There's one more joke I wanted to point out where in the Monorail episode, Bart's really proud of Homer for getting this job as the monorail conductor. Mm-hmm. And Homer says, "Are you so proud that now you want to change your name to Homer Jr.? The kids could call you Hoju."
Yeah.
And I just wanted to take this opportunity to point out to you that if you had a son named Kyle Jr., kids could call him Kaiju.
Yes. Yes. And with that, I think we are done because that was amazing. Oh, good stuff.
So do you want to recommend other episodes from our shows that we weren't able to get to in this discussion?
Okay. Let's see. I mentioned that episode of Seinfeld that they went to the Hamptons and they saw George's girlfriend topless and stuff like that. That episode is not the reason to watch that one. There is one joke in that show. You can look it up as shrinkage, just like Seinfeld shrinkage. I'm sure you know.
I'm familiar with this.
Yeah. And so because everyone saw George's girlfriend topless, they like George wants to come up with a way to get even with them somehow. Mm-hmm. And so they I forget exactly what it is, but they work it out so that Jerry's girlfriend purposely accidentally walks in on George while he's changing, and he like pulls his pants down, and she walks in right at that moment, and he's just like, oh my god, no, and then he looks down, like after she's been like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, and then she kind of looks at him and like chuckles like, okay there, big boy, and he looks down, and then he gets horrified, and he's just like, no, I was in the pool, and then at first you're just like, what are you talking about? And he's like, shrinkage. Jerry, you know about shrinkage, right? And he's like, yes, I know about shrinkage, like a frightened turtle. and so then they have to ask Elaine, like, do women know about shrinkage? And she's like, oh yeah, when you put something in the washing machine, and they're like, no. When a man is in the pool or in the shower and the water might be a little cold, and she goes, it shrinks? And they're like, yeah, like a frightened turtle.
Can you explain sponge-worthy to me? Like, I get what the term means, but I've never figured out the... Yeah, that's something Elaine says. Like, when she's talking about a guy she likes, she's like, he's sponge-worthy. So I can tell, like, what it means, but I do not know the origin of this term.
Actually,
like, why it's those specific words.
I don't even know that one.
Okay.
Was that in one of the ones that we watched?
Yeah, I think she says that John is sponge... No, or the saxophone player. Maybe sponge-worthy. Maybe I'll just have to watch until I get to that one.
I mean... The only thing I can think of is my mind is in the gutter right now, and maybe it's one of those things. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll get there.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah, I think that one is a good episode of Seinfeld. The Soup Nazi is another good one. Let's see. What's another really, really good one that I like? they do a lot of these like gags with the girlfriends that they all have. Like this one has man hands.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Or like this one has a big nose, or this one has like she's a quiet talker. There's one, I don't remember the name of the episode, but Elaine eventually gets a job at this magazine. And she's a copywriter for this magazine, writing like this exotic copy to advertise their stuff. And one of the coworkers likes to sidle up to people, and like he's not scaring them, but they get scared because they don't hear him coming, and like all of a sudden he's just right there, and they're just like, oh my god. And so they devise a plan to like how to stop that, and they try to convince the guy that he has bad breath, and so he needs to carry Tic Tacs wherever he goes, and so it works.
The rattling,
and so, it has this like maraca sound, and then they get so fucking annoyed by this maraca sound because he's walking around everywhere all the time, and it's just like, God, we lied. God damn it! Stop with the Tic Tacs. So yeah, there's stuff like that.
For other episodes of The Simpsons, I would recommend. I didn't do this on purpose, but I gave you episode titles that had characters' names in them.
Okay.
And I think I was originally wondering if we could make this a 5-episode discussion so that I could get the whole family in there, but I think 3 has definitely given us enough.
3 was good, yeah.
But the other episodes I was considering, not even to like meet that theme, just coincidentally, I had 5 episodes that had everybody's name in them. I would suggest And Maggie Makes 3, which is a flashback to when Bart and Lisa are little, and Homer's really burned out on his job. I think he is working at the nuclear power plant at that point, and he thinks he's going to leave and pursue some other dream, and then they find out that they're pregnant with Maggie, and he has to go back to the power plant. And if you've ever seen the meme online where Mr. Burns puts a sign up in Homer's workstation that says, "Don't forget you're here forever," and then at the end of the episode, after Maggie is bored and he realizes like what staying at this job gives him for his family, he covers that sign with pictures of Maggie, and it blocks out the letters so that it says "Do it for her."
Oh,
yeah,
that's good.
Which is one of the sweetest things the show has ever done. And sometimes you will see that meme-ified where they'll paste something else in there. And there's an episode called Lisa's Wedding, which is one where it's a flash forward, and I forget the exact like narrative device that gives them a flash forward.
Rugrats all grown up.
It might be like they go to a carnival and like a fortune teller. It was like, here's a vision of your future. Like there's some framing device to it I don't remember right now. But it's a flash forward to like 20 years in the future, and Lisa's gonna marry like this really handsome British man named Hugh. And like he's coming to meet the family for the first time, and he doesn't like the family. And like Homer gives him, it's like, this has been an heirloom in our family. This is something that's really important to us. We want you to have this. We want you to marry our daughter. And he gives him these cufflinks that are like little pigs in like a tuxedo and I think a wedding gown.
That's funny.
And the guy's like, your family's so tacky. Like, I hate them. Like, I love you, Lisa. I'll marry you, but can we like never visit your family? And Lisa's like,
you're tacky and I hate you.
Lisa's like, no, I love my family. I would never trade my family for anything. If you can't take all of the Simpsons, you're not getting me. It's another very sweet episode.
Yeah.
Like this show had some, for every episode like Marge versus the Monorail that is so gag heavy, there's another one that is really emotional. And if you do want another gag heavy one, there's an episode called The Springfield Files where it's a crossover with X-Files, which was airing on the same network at the same night at this time. So Mulder and Scully come to Springfield because there's been sightings of an alien.
I've
and
seen
this might be
pictures of that one, or of Mulder and Scully as Simpsons.
And like Mulder opens his FBI badge, and where there's supposed to be like a headshot, like a ID headshot of him. It's like a sexy Playgirl picture of him like lounging back in a thong.
It's great.
Agent Fox Mulder, FBI.
The final episode that I would recommend for Seinfeld, one more that I almost put on here, I believe it's called The Pen. And Jerry goes to visit his parents down in Florida with with Elaine, and they get there and they're trying to figure out the sleeping situation. Who's gonna sleep on the couch? Who's gonna sleep on the pull-out bed and stuff like that? And meanwhile, Jerry, like one of the other residents in this like not old folks community. I mean, I guess it's like an old folks community thing. And this guy comes in and he has a space pen, one that astronauts can use to write in space upside down. And Jerry is fascinated by this pen. He goes, "Wow, that's really cool." And they give him the pen as a gift. It's like, "Oh, if you like it so much, take it," you know? He's like, "Oh, no, I couldn't do that." And then his parents are like, "Take it. He's offering you a gift. What are you doing? You can't just, like, not accept." And so he's like, "All right, fine, I'll take it." And then he gets this pen. And then since it's this like old folks home, all they do is like gossip and stuff. And so word gets around that Jerry insisted that he had to have the pen. He's like, "I barely even wanted the pen. I didn't even want to take it." Like all of this. And so it's just this like big rumor mill of like, "Oh, well, I heard he wanted to like do all of it." And he's like, "This is ridiculous. I didn't do any of this." Meanwhile, Elaine sleeps on the pull-out mattress, and there's that bar in the middle of the bed, and she completely hurts her back sleeping on it, and so she's all hopped up on pain meds, and she took a lot, way too many, and she's super high and stoned while Jerry is supposed to be giving this speech to like the old folks home for something, and everything is just going wrong. And meanwhile, Elaine is just stoned out of her mind, being like, "Stella!" They're just like, "What is wrong with her?" It's great.
It's a good time.
Yeah.
I was thinking that if we wanted to recommend other shows outside of what we've talked about today, based on if you enjoyed these, I think a show that is a good mix of the pedantic, everyday, petty problems of Seinfeld and the absurdity combined with the deep emotional core of The Simpsons. I think if you want both of those together, regular show can give that to you.
Okay.
Because that's a show where it starts with an everyday problem, be it related to their relationships or their work. Yeah, yes. And then it always grows into some sci-fi fantastical problem that they have to deal with.
Good.
But it's got that core at the heart of it that's like based on their emotions. There's a lot of relationship drama in that show, lots of longing and regret and screwing up and trying to figure out how to make amends for it, and also like oh no, we did this thing wrong at work, the boss is going to be mad at us, what do we do? And there is an episode, I think it might be called Mississippi Queen, I don't know, but like they go with their boss to a party, and I think it is like they are dared to drink this hot sauce, and they're like, "Well, it's fine, we can handle this hot sauce." Oh no. And then they go through this whole hallucination trip, just like in The Mysterious Voyage of Homer, where like the three of them have had too much hot sauce, and like the animation gets all warped and weird.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, find that one.
Okay. If I had to recommend something kind of outside of the sitcom realm, this is an anime called Nichijou. And myself and Paul covered this way back on the Whatnauts podcast, which you guys can find on our website. It's a slice of life comedy. It goes into the more fantastical at times, but it is just kind of this, it starts out as this mundane thing, and then it just turns it on its head. For example, there's one character who likes to draw manga, but all the manga she draws is like boys love manga, like super gay, super like erotic and stuff like that. And she's walking to work one day, and I think like some police officers end up stopping her about something else, like entirely different. But she thinks it's because of the drawings in her bag. Like somehow she thinks that they are after her, and it goes wrong, I think. And like the drawings end up spilling out and flying everywhere, and someone picks them up and starts to look at them, and girl just goes nuts and goes like full on like wrestler, like no, and just starts beating them up and flipping them and stuff like that. So it has the like mundane stuff about nothing that like Seinfeld is, but then it just goes into the completely ridiculous stuff, and it is, I think, by far one of the funniest shows I have ever seen. It's really good. It's great.
Nice.
So, good stuff. Melissa. I really liked what we did here.
Yeah. I would love to do this again and give you Futurama episodes.
Good.
That's another show. It's from the same creator as The Simpsons. It has a lot of the same DNA and kind of structure to it. And it's such a good sci-fi show, and I know you would love it.
I grew up as more of a Futurama fan, even though I probably know more about Simpsons than I do Futurama. Futurama has been on my list of like, I need to sit down and watch this entire show because I fucking love Bender. He's great. Like I remember when Futurama first came out and how big of a deal it was, that like, oh, it's by the creator of The Simpsons and stuff like that. And I think I watched most of that season 1, but that was like when it came out, so I remember nothing. But then I've seen random bits here and there. I've seen YouTube clips. I've seen GIFs. I know the whole thing about Fry's like somehow like his own father or something like that. Like that is absolutely my kind of show. But I would like to do this again. I don't know if I want to keep it to a specific date or stuff like that, but maybe every so often when just once a year we can be like, you know what? I think it's time for a sitcom special. Like let's just do a sitcom special.
Or anything where we talk about a show, but we pull out a couple individual episodes to discuss, and we're not breaking it down like we watched all of it or we watched season 1. Like we did a Patreon bonus episode where I gave you X-Files is a show I love, but it's 9 seasons. The first season's like way too long for us to cover in a decent amount of time because it's like 24-hour-long episodes. So I pulled 4 episodes out that were all one-shot mysteries, and they were all by the same writer. So like we talked about how we saw that guy's style evolve and what themes it seemed like he wanted to play with.
Patreon.com/the Whatnauts. $3 tier. Go get that exclusive content.
Yeah, I think that was the first episode that we did of Patreon exclusive anything. Yeah.
It was.
This is a structure of an episode I really like, so I want to try doing this again in the future.
Cool.
And we could do Futurama. Like, you should definitely watch all of it, but if you want to see like a couple highlights to start out with, let me know.
Oh yeah, good stuff. Okay, next week.
Yeah.
Melissa, you and I have already mentioned last episode what we are going to be doing for this next week, but we will give you guys a reminder. We are going to be watching Tron Uprising. This is a cartoon from, I think, like 2012-ish.
Yeah.
It only ran for 1 season. It was 19 episodes. But everything I've heard about this show is that it was amazing. It was this, like, unsung great cartoon.
Yeah.
and it takes place between the continuity of the first the two Tron movies, the original and then the one that was out in like 2009-ish. So it takes place between them, and yeah, it looks like there is some kind of rebellion starting up within the grid, led by this new character. I don't remember what his name was off the top of my head. Beck, yes, that is correct. And yeah, you guys know me. I'm a big cyberpunk fan. So this is kind of right up my alley. I like sci-fi and stuff like that, and I'm also a big video game nerd. So
yeah,
there you go. And I think you had mentioned that you were also planning on pitching this to me at some point. So it worked out.
Like I caught a little bit of it while it was on, because I think I was watching other shows. This was like a Disney XD cartoon. I was watching something else in that on that same night in that same block, but I never really watched this. But it always looked cool, and I wanted to sit down and watch all of it.
Very stylized, really cool artwork. Good stuff with that. So yeah, that is what we will be doing this next week. It is 19 episodes. It's all on Disney Plus. You guys can watch it there. Yeah, we hope you guys enjoy that one. Before we go, we do also want to remind you what we will be, I guess let you know. I think we've mentioned it once before too, but we'll let you know what we are covering next month, because we will be getting back to our usual end of the month specials, in which we are covering one big long story from month to month. Already done 2 TV shows, so I wanted to switch up the medium. We are going to be covering a comic book. This book is called Irredeemable, and it is by Mark Waid and Peter Krause. It was published by Boom Studios, and I think there's 10 volumes total. And this is a comic about the world's greatest superhero turning bad, and the rest of the superheroes kind of coming together to figure out what went wrong, how do we stop him, all of this stuff. So basically it's like, what if Superman went bad and did all, the rest of them had to stop him. So yeah, I've read all of this book once before, but it was years ago. I wanted to pitch this one because I think it's a fantastic book. It does some really, really cool things within this book, and it was just something that we probably weren't gonna really get to cover on the show unless we did like, hey, let's read volume 1 and 2. It's like, well, okay, but you won't really get to the stuff that makes this book really special, right? So here we are. That's what we're going to be covering. Melissa, when I pitched this idea to you, you were like, okay, I'll check it out and see how it is. And then you came back and you were like, oh my God, I've read the first 80 pages. I'm hooked. Yeah. This is good.
Yeah. It's like, I thought, let me see how this goes. Let me see how I like the tone, how the story starts. And I had read 70 pages before I looked up, and I'm like, oh, I just blew through that. I think it's really compelling right off the bat. So I'm excited to see how it grows from there.
Indeed. I'm excited to talk about this. For this next month, I guess we should do it, 3, 3, and 4? Or like 4, 3, and 3? What are we going to do for the first chunk? I think if we do 3, that'll do September, October, November. I think that'll take us to the end of the year, because we probably won't get to do one at the end of the year for December.
Yeah.
So
it sounds good. You've read this before. You have a sense of when might be a good break in the narrative to stop. So I'll leave it up to you.
Let's do the first 4 for this first chunk, and then we'll do 3 and 3 after that.
Alrighty. Yeah, that sounds good.
Cool. First 4 volumes of Irredeemable, which you guys can get all of those on Comixology Unlimited. and read those, and we will check back in next month with our first one of those.
Yeah.
Tron Uprising next week, Irredeemable next month. So, exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Melissa, where can the people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Wilkywit. That's WILKYWIT.
You can find me at Yo Kyle Springer on Twitter and Instagram. If you guys want to stay up to date with our shows, we are at the Whatnauts on Twitter. Go like, share, subscribe, and maybe sell your soul for $5 or something. Yeah, that would help us out a lot. We promise not to spend our Patreon money on pogs. Though that would be kind of a cool thing to do. Make like the Whatnauts pogs.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be rad. Yeah, anyways. We will see you guys next time. If you guys could help spread the word, that would be great. This has been episode 121 of the Whatnauts Review Show, a good old palindrome episode.
Ooh, yeah. Eye to eye.
Exactly. Dad, do the perfect cast. We will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for checking out our podcast. We hope you enjoyed that one. Leave a comment down below what your favorite sitcom of all time. Excuse me. Leave a comment down below what your favorite sitcom of all time is. Go subscribe to our channel, which is right up here in this corner. Go watch one of our other videos, which is right down here in that one. We got plenty of podcasts for you to check out. And with that, we will see you guys next time. Bye.